Next, how to DAO live stream. Today we have a special episode with our DAO tooling partner, Decent, and who is representing Decent here. It's Parker, or you can know him as a Moondog from socials, who is the CEO and founder of Decent. And on this live stream, you will actually learn more about how Decent works, um, how it can be used, and also what you should expect from collaboration between how to DAO and Decent. So if you are interested in like how to DAO course, you should definitely stay on, because you will learn how to get free stipends here, and you will also get some sneak peek about what we will be actually doing during the course. So, as a start, I will introduce myself, Punkar, the co-author of How to DAO and tutor to the How to DAO course. With me here, it's Gideon, who is the specialist in organization design and DAOs, and also teaching the course with me. So we did together the cohort number 1, which was amazing. And the guest and the partner to How to DAO, it's Parker, as I said, the CEO and founder of Decent. Do you want to say a couple words about yourself, Parker?
Yeah, thanks so much, Punkar. It's great to be here. And Gideon, it's great to meet you today. Um, yeah, so as mentioned, I'm the founder and CEO of Decent Labs. We started in 2017 as a smart contract development agency. And over 5 years, we grew to a end-to-end brand design, product design, software development, venture studio in the Web3 space. For the last 3 years, we've been really focused on building software and operational processes for operating on chain as a DAO, and sort of evolving the definition of DAO and what that could mean, so that we can run, fairly sophisticated businesses on chain that can compete with traditional, centralized corporations and whatnot. So, yeah, really excited to be here and really impressed with the work that's being done by How to DAO in terms of like evangelizing this format and this philosophy to the world. And yeah, just can't be more proud to be a part of it. Thanks.
Well, thank you, and thank you for partnering with us and supporting the How to DAO movement. I think we have the same vision. We want to just get more people, more businesses on chain, and through education and better tooling, I think we can achieve that mission. So the first question will be basically to like, what's Decent about? Because like people maybe never heard of it. Also, there is like other DAO tools out there, but like, what do you think like is the Decent like biggest value proposition? Like how it can help actually businesses to become a DAOs?
Definitely. Well, it all started with our own journey to become a DAO, right? We were a 5-year-old company. We had 30 employees. We had, 5 million in revenues, and we didn't want to destroy everything that we had created together in the process, but we were totally committed to tokenization, decentralization, and all the things that we had joined crypto for. And so when we looked at the landscape of DAOs that existed at the time, which was early 2022, and we had followed for many years. We deployed our first DAO on Aragon, I believe, in 2019, which was Sarcophagus, one of our clients. And when we looked at the landscape, we saw two types of organizations. We saw truly decentralized DAOs that operated democratically, but as a result, were very inefficient, struggled to execute. And if you looked at the output, be it technical or social impact or whatever the output was meant to be of the DAO, it was usually not great compared to like a traditional startup doing the same thing. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we saw DAOs that could execute, and upon further inspection, learned in almost every case that there was a leadership council and an executive team and a core team doing most of the work, usually in a format where they controlled an on-chain treasury and a multi-sig and had a snapshot if they had any on-chain artifacts at all. So we looked at that and we're like, okay, clearly, operating with a delegate democracy or with a hierarchy and accountability and structure that we've developed over millennia as human beings probably makes sense. But we need to do that in a way that satisfies our beliefs about decentralization and now legal requirements for decentralization. And so that kind of started our whole process, was how do we do this in a way that we are going to be able to execute even better than a traditional company, but have this democratic stakeholder alignment and holistic perspective that DAOs possess, and do it all on chain, because that's always been what Decent's about.
Nice. No, I totally get it. What I always say, it's like DAO should not be leaderless. you definitely need some leadership, someone who is like, letting you know where you should go so you can actually execute, but we should keep the values. And actually, just like a note before I get Gideon the space to ask a question. Vitalik was opening the Ethereum San Francisco on Monday, and one of the kind of like topics there was like, Ethereum values, like what be like why we should still care about the Ethereum values and not just go for the most efficiency, or something like another layer one is coming and we should just like, be faster than them. Like that's not the long-term strategy for us. Like if we want make just better systems and like, long-term sustainable businesses, and the values are super important. So I'm happy that you are in the same boat on that. So that's really cool. Gideon, go ahead. I know you have some question for Parker.
Yeah, for sure, Parker. So amazing that you recognize that kind of spectrum, right, from the overly democratic but dysfunctional to the more hierarchical, and actually producing results. And it seems like you found some middle or some place on the spectrum where you think DAOs can really operate and create value. So can you tell me a bit more about that space? What are some examples that you see, for example, working with Decent or other suites to really organize and become a successful business?
Yeah, so I'll talk about two different examples, and then maybe we can dive into like how they ended up, if that's interesting. So, first of all, I think many people are introduced to DAOs as investment DAOs, right? Because it's kind of the simplest thing you can do with the DAO. If you're doing on-chain governance, there's probably money involved. Otherwise, there's not many use cases to do the governance on-chain, or why you would be voting on something that costs money to vote on in the first place. And so we're talking about, shared asset or resource management. So of course, just investing makes sense. And yeah, and it's crypto, so there's finance people all over the place. So, in that context, investment funds have numerous key players, right? They have, the folks that manage relationships with LPs, not liquidity providers like Uniswap, but LPs like, limited partners in an investment fund. And they're going out raising capital to deploy. I remember when I first got into tech, I thought that investors invested their own money and they must be really good at it. And that's why they're so rich and have so much money many, many years ago. But then we have the people that are, scouting deals and finding opportunities. They're doing a lot of pollination. We have the people that are evaluating those deals. And then, of course, we have the capital providers themselves, the investors in the fund. And so those are all, key parties in this system that are not the same as somebody voting on whether or not to make an investment. They have outsized influence. They probably should have a degree of autonomy so that they can make actions quickly. They're in the idea maze, so to speak, of executives where they have context at a level that you cannot simply offer. It's something that gets ingrained after many years of kind of wearing down like water on a rock, right? That's how I like to think about running a business. And so basically, Decent allows you to create on-chain roles and permissions, compensation structures, election cycles, all the things you need to deploy like these influential key members in a way where they're actually held accountable by the DAO, where the token holders have ultimate authority. And that satisfies, I think, our belief system as a community, as decentralized kind of evangelists, but it also satisfies, very importantly, legal best practices of setting up a decentralized organization, and how do you create the right amount of separation between a decentralized organization and the key contributors that are building the software product or community that the organization manages.
Go ahead, Pugro.
I thought if you have any additional question, but like it makes sense to me. Like basically you are creating like the tool, it's creating like the roles and permissions, so you can actually have a structure in a DAO. It's not just like, everyone has the say, and as you mentioned at the beginning, it's very inefficient to execute. Well, do you think it's a good time actually maybe to show a little bit like how decent kind of work, and like how you can create the DAO on decent? Because I feel like this is actually a nice segue to like what you are saying, like how you can set up those permissions, or maybe show some example of a decent DAO, how it's set up. And for before
Sure.
you get ready, uh, our students during the cohort number 2 will actually create DAO on Decent, and there will be actual money in it because some of the course fees go straight to the treasury of the DAO, which is controlled by the students. So like you are not just joining a course, you are actually joining a DAO you create and treasury you control. So it will be fun experiment.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, and it's interesting because we could actually create a DAO for the cohort and then have the students create sub DAOs, right? Because they're feature complete. And now you have like each cohort with the DAO. Yeah, it could be really, really cool. And so I just shared a link in the studio chat that we can include in social media posts and whatnot after this to a room called the Tour of Decent, and that's for after this call. If people want to take a deeper dive, look at a specific feature, hear a little bit about the design philosophy or architecture behind Decent, we have all those in those videos. I was actually up late last night working on those because a client asked for one, and I was like, well, someone needs to just do the whole app. I'll just get it done. In the meantime, though, I'm happy to share my screen and show a little bit of what Decent's capable of. So let's see. One moment. There we go. All right. Yeah, so here's the homepage of Decent. And there's only a couple of features here that really matter. The first, of course, is My DAOs, which you can see pretty apparent here. And this is a list of DAOs that you favorited throughout your time on Decent, which is then accessible as a convenience so that you can access them in the future. We use Wallet Connect and kind of industry standard stuff here. So no matter what wallet you use, you should be able to use the app. And if there's a DAO that you want to access or a safe that you want to access through our interface that you need to access, you can paste a Ethereum address or ENS name here to find it. And of course, we have some links to support materials for the product here, and the Create DAO wizard also begins on the homepage. So to look at kind of how Decent works, I'll pull up one of our testnet DAOs. Our Sepolia stuff is a little slow because it's on testnet, but it's cheaper to play with. So here's a DAO homepage. If you're familiar with DAOs already, you probably recognize some of the verbiage here around governance parameters, and you've probably seen views like this in governance centric apps in the past, like the Aragon, Snapshot, Tally of the world. So this is your kind of typical proposal view where you can view actions that have been proposed to the DAO and passed. Now, where Decent gets unique, I would say, first of all, is on the structuring of DAOs. So as mentioned earlier, right, when we started this process, we were frustrated with the black and white contrast between a fully flat direct democracy or an organization that to me was sort of LARPing as a DAO. And we thought, how do we create on-chain structures that can resemble the type of organizational structure that we know is effective and still has the transparency and accountability of a DAO? And so the first feature that we ever baked for Decent a few years ago was the sub-DAO feature. And this feature basically allows a parent-child relationship to exist between DAOs or treasuries on chain, if you will, so that you can create a degree of autonomy, such as creating a multi-sig to dole grants out of by a committee, or creating a sub-DAO for a separate entity from the parent DAO that it's contracting and that needs some sort of autonomy over payments, or perhaps granting a treasury manager access to a sub DAO treasury that they can use for more risky DeFi strategies than perhaps the parent DAO treasury wouldn't want to risk at that scale. And when you create a sub DAO, it's the same flow as a typical DAO creation in Decent. So let's say I want to create Decent DAO 2, and we'll deploy a new ERC20 token for it. I'll create a new token. I'll call it Decent. Well, I'll call it Decent 2. Decent 2. We'll make one token, and I'm going to be greedy and just give it all to myself. Oh, wait, we're on Sepolia. Let me grab an address. there's an address. Again, typical governance parameters, kind of out of scope for this call. But what's unique here is this administration page. And here you can see the freeze parameters and the clawback. And this is where the parent-child relationship and the accountability is created between parts of the DAO. And the freeze functionality adds a time lock to the safe such that, hey, we're going to initiate a transaction, and there's a period of time upon which, if you meet a certain threshold of voting power in the parent DAO, you can freeze that transaction and go, hey, we just funded this project, this investment, this grant recipient, this work stream with 500K USDC yesterday for 6 months. And now there's a transaction that's sending 90% of it somewhere else. That's weird. That's probably not how this is supposed to work. What's going on here? So it gives you some time to prevent those things. And if you choose to deploy it this way, based on the kind of social contract between the parent and child, you can also enable a clawback, so you can recover funds. So this could prevent, for example, a grant recipient rug pulling a DAO, or a hack, such as what occurred on the Bybit exchange from a subsidiary multisig of a larger organization, from going through governance without getting caught. So yeah, that's the sub-DAO feature. And so what's interesting is for How to DAO cohort, right? We could actually deploy, How to DAO, cohort 1, for example, or cohort 2, sorry. And then you can deploy each project as a sub-DAO. And sub-DAOs are feature complete. They can have their own sub-DAOs. They have their own roles. They have their own proposals. They have their own treasury. And so, yeah, it's kind of DAOs all the way down, but you can create whatever organizational structure that you could possibly want using this feature.
That's super cool. Maybe question, can sub-DAO has a sub-DAO?
Yes, yeah, so you can get really crazy with this. And I will say, it's funny, when I first imagined, so Decent used to be called Fractal, right? Decent was a venture studio, and this product was called Fractal. We've now consolidated it all into one because I'm obsessed with this product. But the name was to describe that vision of, whoa, now we can create these on-chain orgs that are just like this crazy structure of all these different DAOs. In reality, the way we see people using this, they're usually like 2 layers. There's a governing body, and then there's like a bunch of sub-DAOs right under it that are administered. We haven't seen a ton of organizations that are getting like vertical delta there and like nesting sub-DAOs and sub-DAOs and sub-DAOs. But where we have seen that is through like IP or RWA projects where they're managing a bunch of assets or managing a bunch of separate portfolios using the sub-DAO feature. It's not what we designed it for, but it works really well because you can tokenize every sub-DAO with its own governance token or NFT collection or multi-sig schema.
Cool. And then, can you tell us a bit more about the roles? Yes, you're going to click there anyway. Very interesting. Yeah. We see a lot of different varieties of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So roles for us, and actually, I'm gonna use one of our mainnet DAOs for this example because I think we've taken advantage of this in a really cool way at Decent Foundation. So the roles feature is a way of managing accountability and structure between individuals or contributors. Maybe they're service providers, maybe it's like a team or a consulting firm, but generally speaking, this is a relationship between like the DAO and some sort of contributor or service provider. In our case, we actually use roles to manage the foundation itself in Cayman. And so the Decent Foundation, which is like a totally separate entity and operating concept from Decent Labs, their staff and directorship and contributors are actually elected on chain by token holders. And to show you an example of how that works, right, for our tokenomics team, right, this election occurred via proposal. They were elected with a payment stream that was deployed that they can collect from this screen. So roles basically have a member, so somebody who is assigned the role, a description describing the role, permissions on chain if applicable, payments if applicable, and a term if applicable. So to show you a little bit about how that works, an example of a permission would be in some DAOs, there's a global setting where they want not only if you meet a token threshold requirement, but you have to have explicit permission to be able to create proposals. So one of the investment DAOs running on our platform, they don't want anyone to be able to submit deals. And so you have to go through an election process to earn that privilege from the DAO as a way to keep the signal to noise pretty high. Terms, which I mentioned, is a way, this was an innovation on our end. So this is a way to create essentially an expiration date for a role. So we're imagining this as the CEO or C-suite type roles that are really critical to a DAO to kick in that autonomous part. It shouldn't require governance to hold someone accountable, or to like, in the event that somebody leaves the organization, it shouldn't require governance to fix that. I think there should be an expectation. And so in this case, perhaps like once a year, I'll submit an update to the DAO on all the stuff that I've been doing at Decent Labs, and why we should continue getting funded, and yada yada. And it's not to introduce like a PvP like competition, but rather a like healthy degree of accountability. Terms can also be set to be like indestructible. So just like terms in real life, this protects the contributor and lets them know, okay, I have like 2 years to like do my thing and what I signed up for, without a random forum member coming into our Discord and being like, why are we paying this guy, and scaring you, right? So we're thinking a lot about like pro-social stuff here. And then finally, we talked about payments, but you can go select an asset from your treasury and set that on a payment schedule. You can make the streams cancelable or not, which is a way to increase or reduce accountability to the DAO. A grant recipient, for example, you might legally not want to be able to claw back the funds, but a paid contributor, I think you absolutely would want to. That's how we create this kind of accountability on chain. So yeah, and with roles, what's cool about them as well, we wanted a Web 2 like user experience. So for example, I could delete all of our roles, and it compiles all of that activity in a single proposal. So you only have to request as many votes as deemed necessary, instead of having to, nickel and dime your voters to death. So yeah, that's the roles feature. And we built this in the same way where we built our governance on top of OZ Governor, Safe, and Zodiac. We built roles on top of Hats and Sablier. They were like the two most battle tested and well known systems for this. So yeah, we've contributed to both projects now and are building integrations to make this feature more powerful. But yeah, it's been a really, really cool addition to the platform.
This is actually awesome. And like so maybe like little alpha on how to DAO. Like we are in the process of tokenizing the whole how to DAO. So actually become a DAO ourselves. And our vision is little like very similar to what you envision with your tooling. Like we want to have like multiple sub DAOs, and like there are like independent. We might fund them, we might like spin them off, but like they actually are their own project, but they are connected to the main kind of vision. So I really love how we are thinking about DAOs, because I think we are thinking about that the same way. And this is where I see like the highest value in the short term, like for the students in the course. It's like now there is the way for like the main treasury of the course, like get your project, your idea, which you might already have, fund it through that, and basically spin off a project, get initial funds into it and initial contributors, and just run with it. Which is super cool. I haven't participated in any course like where I would be like, I'm learning now, I'm accelerating, and now I actually run my own project kind of thing. So I'm super excited about that. You are actually enabling that with Decent. So uh, that's super cool. Anything else you would like to show from that perspective, like from the tooling perspective?
No, I think that that's great. I mean, I think it's a fairly intuitive platform, at least as far as DAO tooling goes, which I guess is not a huge boast, but we're doing the best that we can. And yeah, the last thing I'll just share a little bit of vision for the product in terms of what to expect down the line. We're making big investments right now in community compliance and payments. So on the community side, we recently acquired a governance automation platform. And basically, what I just showed you, Decent doesn't even have a server. This is just a UI running on top of a bunch of smart contracts. And our team has been incredible to be able to pull this off. With the governance automation platform, we're going to add some pre-on-chain governance features into the app so that users have a place to hang out, collaborate, discuss, and form ideas strategically for the DAO, which we think is a really critical feature. On the compliance side, we have a network of, I mean, at this point, dozens of law firms and legal adjacent, like advisory, accounting, and compliance firms that are helping us inform the way that we build these features so that they meet the expectation of what compliance in the US will look like for DAOs and digital assets, and what currently stands in jurisdictions like Cayman, BVI, and Switzerland, where DAOs are often headquartered in. And on the payments front, we're just constantly adding more ways. So, I mean, right now you can do airdrops on the platform, you can create streams, you can create streams attached to roles, you can create simple token transfers, and you can create tokens with vesting schedules and use them for governance while they're vesting, which is a great way to launch a token on chain without deploying a token publicly and create a track record of decentralized governance from the very beginning. And we're constantly looking at new ways to add like different types of, for example, revenue streaming features, subscription payment features, vesting management features, and we're interviewing a bunch of different integration partners throughout the space that offer payments primitives to boost those features in our platform as well. So I think this is going to be a really exciting year and a lot of new stuff that DAOs will be able to do now because hopefully because Decent builds it for them.
We can't hear you, Volker. Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to say that I love your platform. So, and the future seems like you are heading the right direction, and like we all want more DAOs in the US, and like I feel like you are spearheading that initiative, which is great, because like this like token launches or like opening a DAO, but actually you need to exclude all the US personnel. Like why? Like we want to be global platform. We don't want to be like we are global, but if you are in this country or that country or the other country, like you probably can't be here. So making something which is truly global but also compliant, that's definitely where we all want to go. So now the next couple minutes on the live stream, we should maybe discuss like what we are the most excited about DAOs, like how we can help new people join in. And for that, I would also invite back the community lead from Decent, Aaron, and the BD lead from Decent, Rachel, so they can also give their takes about DAOs and what we are excited about. So, but I will start with you, Parker. So you already mentioned the vision of the tool, but like, what's your vision for the DAOs, and why you're excited like about the courses and like getting like new people into the space?
Definitely. Well, I think DAOs most resemble what attracted me to Ethereum in the first place, which is more transparency and essentially like a more meritocratic way of doing things. When I first learned about Ethereum, I thought of it as sort of a Bitcoin as a service, like a way to apply the decentralized framework to a bunch of different things at the application layer. And just putting money on chain alone hasn't solved any problems. For example, one of Decent's first projects, well, before Decent, at a hackathon, my co-founder and I built a project called Denari that was like a charitable giving platform, similar to like a Giveth or Endowment or something like that today, in concept. And the idea was, hey, by donating crypto, you can see how the funds are allocated, and that'll incentivize people to donate more because that's what everybody thinks when they go to donate. They go, where's this money going? It's like the number one reason not to give is because you're questioning the distribution of your donation. And so if you think about that, there's nothing about putting that on chain that solves the problem unless the whole like organization's on chain. Because now it's not just the money, it's the decisions that were made, it's where the money went, it's who made those decisions. And so we really kind of need to go whole hog with on-chain operations if we want that meritocratic transparency to exist. And yeah, you brought up the U.S. exclusion. I think that this has been a big issue. The reality is so much of the venture capital and founding teams in crypto are from the U.S. And we kind of shot ourselves in the foot in an effort to, in an absence of a clear regulatory direction in the U.S., people have gone offshore, and they typically create a lot of distinction between the offshore operating entity and the U.S. or Europe-based core team. The problem is that also reduces the accountability on the core team. And so it actually makes a way easier environment for rug pulls or just bad outcomes. I mean, it's a good thing. I feel this way. Sometimes Decent can feel like a ball and chain to me, but it's good because it makes me work really, really hard on behalf of everyone else at Decent. So those incentive structures are good. And I think, making those work in crypto and setting a standard much higher for like the long-term perspective in crypto is necessary now. And the DAO people are culturally aligned with that. DAO people are impact driven. DAO people see the big picture. DAO people see the 50-year plan for Bitcoin and for Ethereum. And that really has re-inspired my passion for Web3.
That's awesome. Well, Gideon, actually, do you want to say your take on DAOs in the future and your passion, and then repeat the question maybe for Rachel and Aaron so they can give us their take?
Yeah, for sure. The future of DAOs, so that's a very big one. We have to keep building that one together, right? So there's not a very clear-cut answer there. However, what is interesting from analysis, if you look into the DAO space, and this is part of the How to DAO course as well, is those DAOs that have a non-economic purpose per se, right? So a bigger impact that they're striving for, usually survive for longer, right? So that's an interesting fact, at least, that we see. That apparently it's hard to collaborate with a DAO structure thus far if you have solely economic goals, right? So even if you have those, I think we should facilitate that. But it's clear that working on higher deals apparently is still easier within the DAO space. And let's see how that will change. I would definitely encourage businesses to come on chain as well. But maybe, even as you hinted at, Parker, there's a lot of legacy there, which in a great part is also good, right? Apparently, we have worked out these structures that work for businesses, but it doesn't mean that there aren't great benefits to be gotten by going online and on-chain. So I'll pass that on to, well, let's see. You want to jump in, Rachel, maybe? Ladies first.
Sure,
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
I'm hearing a little echo, but okay, cool. Yeah, well, first I just want to say thank you guys so much for having me up today. Punkar, Gideon, what you guys are doing is so essential for our space. I know for folks like myself, Parker, Aaron, DAOs have been a big factor of us doing the work that we do. Fun fact, actually, DAOs were the reason that I first got involved in Web3. When I saw that there was a new way for people to work collectively towards a goal as equals, that really resonated with me. And I think full circle now, coming and doing this work at Decent, leading business development, it has just felt really rewarding for me to support individuals that share those ethos and those values. And Gideon and Punkar, I'm just so grateful for the work you guys do. Punkar, congratulations on the new How to DAO book. And yeah, just happy to be here today. And another note I'll say is that Punkar and I are both in San Francisco, so we will be attending some of the ETHSF events. We'll maybe share some of those at the end here. Yeah, Aaron, I'll pass it off to you.
Thanks, Rachel. Yeah, I want to start by just echoing that same sentiment. I'm really grateful, Punkar and Gideon, for the work you guys do. And yeah, I think one of the key value props for me about decentralized organizations is it's actually sort of the thing that kept me in the space. And I find that we are at sort of a tipping point right now with infrastructure and tooling. And, we've been in this Build-A-Bear market for so long where everybody's been heads down sort of pumping out things that make Web3 tech so much more usable. And when you think about the applications for that, I think decentralized organizations are one of the most exciting, one of the most innovative fields and sectors for that to be applied, to the degree that there's honestly a little bit of a void at the moment in the space of things for people to do that DAOs are filling, right? I saw a post on X earlier today where one of the top community managers in the space was talking about how there's no new users in the space outside of two sectors, and that's DeFi, which is slowly trickling in, traditional finance, and DAOs, which was a sort of a surprising take for some people, and I would say not for me. I kind of saw it coming, not to toot my own horn, but it's just the most interesting aspect of the space, I think. And so, yeah, very excited to be recently joining Decent for our community efforts. We're going to be building out a lot of exciting new pipelines for ways for people to get involved, to discover DAOs and to get hands-on. And so I think that this course is going to be a great start for a lot of people. And I also would highly recommend the How to DAO book. I got it myself after I saw Parker and Rachel talking about it at ETH Denver, and just was amazed and entertained and enlightened. So big recommendation there.
Yeah, good, great work, Punkar. And just to synthesize a bit, I think the most talented and passionate people in the world are going to want to work for DAOs because it gives them an opportunity to be valued and seen and incentivized in a transparent way that feels fair and encouraging. And that's if we can get to the point where a DAO can execute like a company and consider everyone involved like a government, the efficiency and the holistic perspective. Um, wow. I mean, I think that's why we're all here, right? So, and Punkar, I'd love to hear from you. What's next?
Well, I will probably just echo what you all said. Like, I think the future is on chain. I think like this is the evolution of organization. All the innovation will be happening here. You know, it's the new way how to get capital to any part of the world, basically. So it's also like something like which is democratizing kind of the access to resources. And I feel like we can be solving a bigger problems when we actually move on chain because we can just like be very fluid into where the capital goes, who is bringing the value, and yeah, we can touch upon AI as well. I actually, funny enough, I work on one project which is like kind of exploring this kind of AI DAO space, and it's exciting. Like the future is exciting. Like all the boring stuff will be just executed by AI, which is great, and we can just like work on what like we are passionate about. So we will be way more effective, providing way more output. And I'm excited about the future and the future of like abundance, basically. Like I just work because I want to work and I love to like achieve those type of things. But I also see like we are kind of coming up with time. So I think the last thing I would like to say, well, before I say the last thing, well, I'm also super thankful about this partnership because like I think we are thinking about the DAOs the same way, and I think like cooperation is always better than competition, and I think that's one of the values almost in the DAO space. And like I really like super excited about working together like through the next cohort, building more DAOs, launching it on decent, that's just like how I see the future play out. We just like cooperate to get more people on chain and more businesses to be basically created. So thank you for that. And Rachel, where they can find us? Like, tell us where people can find Punkar and Rachel the last couple days during ETH SF.
Well, on socials, I'll say you can follow us at Decent DAO, and then for me, it's at Rachel Onchain, and physically at ETHSF. We're going to be at a couple events. Today, I'm actually going later today to an on-chain and AI event. We were just talking about on-chain and AI. So yeah, I'll actually drop that Luma on the live stream comments. And then also this Friday, we have the Stand with Crypto event, which I think is one of the most just incredible projects in our space that has been really fighting for clearer regulatory clarity for our industry. For those of you that don't know Stand with Crypto, check them out. They're awesome. They were actually a part of our on-chain legal summit we did at ETH Denver. So yeah, just going to support, and Punkar and I will both be there if you want to connect with us.
Exactly. We will be here so you can meet us in person. And if you want to get free stipend to the course, so if you cannot afford it and like you will really get a lot of value out of it, which we believe so, just drop comment under the live stream. So drop your basically motivation letter, why you should be the one getting the stipend from Decent. What's your motivation to get into the DAOs? And then by end of the week, we will select the individuals which are eligible for the stipend and can join the course, which is starting on March 18. So it's next Tuesday. So apply for the stipend or just sign up right away. There are links on our Twitter, Decent Twitter, everywhere, or how to DAO.xyz, and we will see you on Tuesday. So thank you everyone for watching the stream. Thank you for joining, Parker, Rachel, Aaron, Gideon, and we will see you Tuesday on the course and next Thursday on another live stream.
Awesome.
Cheers.
Thanks,
Awesome.
everyone.
Thanks, Punkar. Have a good one.
Okay, stay on, please.